Hey guys, welcome to the Love Your Life with Misty podcast. I have a super special treat for you guys today. I am excited to introduce you to my very good friend, Brittany Hinrichs. Brittany and I have been working together for the last few months. She has been handling a lot of my social media. She's been doing some of my rebrand. She's just a very, very amazing all-encompassing woman of many hats that I am super, super blessed to know and have in my life. But the reason that I actually wanted to bring her on today is because she is actually one of the reasons that I went on my self-love journey. She's actually one of the inspirations, I should say, for going on it and really kind of having someone to sort of link arms with and sort of commiserate in a little bit of a way and sort of beat ideas around. And she's been such a really amazing resource, and especially since she's younger than me, it's been a really fun journey for me to have a little self-love partner. So I'm excited for her to get to share with you guys a lot of raw and real stuff about what she does, why she does it, and get to share her with you guys. So welcome, Brittany. I'm excited to have you. Thanks for making time.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. We were just talking about this, but I have been looking forward to this very much so because I cannot wait to share a little bit about my journey and, you're going to share some of yours. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll kind of get into your journey. But the very first question I have for you is, what is your morning routine? Like, what do you do to really prepare yourself for the day? Like, what did it look like this morning?
Oh goodness. Well, a routine for me nowadays is becoming a little more difficult. So it's definitely taking some practice, but like you were saying, I have my own company, so things get a little bit crazy, and then I also run my blog. But every morning, I really do the first thing I do when I get up is I try to at least do 10 minutes of meditation. And this has been a little bit of a newer kind of practice for myself, just to put me in a healthy mental state that way. And I also, that's the biggest thing for me. And then I'll go and get my cup of coffee and sit down, and I usually read a little bit. I recently started journaling. I have this, it's called Law of Attraction journal that actually one of my clients gave me. And so I've been writing in that in the morning right away as well. And then other than that, those few little things, everything is kind of up in the air. It's very hard for me to set a schedule, unfortunately, right now, but those are my little pieces of self-love in the morning.
I love it. I love it. I actually just started doing the Artist's Way. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So one of my friends, my friend Dee, actually was talking to me about it, and it's all about like morning pages and like writing and free stream of consciousness writing, just without even thinking about it first thing in the morning before you even get out of bed. I haven't dove super far into it, but it's a fun little exercise, fun little book. I'm already enjoying it. So maybe after you're done with that, maybe that's something that you can consider.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. But tell me a little bit more about you. Tell us all about your background and how you got to where you are now, because you have such an amazing journey, such an amazing story that I always love hearing so much more about. So tell us everything about you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'll try to condense it a little bit, but so I have a background in PR and marketing, and 2 years ago I started my own digital branding and social media management company. So I've been dealing with that on the entrepreneurial end, and I've also had my own blog for almost 5 years now. And when I started blogging, it was very, very different. I came into the blogging industry not really knowing where I wanted to take it. I didn't really have a clear vision, even who I was. And so I just kind of, blindly led my way through the blogging journey. I was more into fashion. And I would say about 3.5 years, 4 years into it, something kind of clicked, and the blog started feeling more and more like a chore. I didn't feel like there was any purpose behind it. I wasn't getting any kind of fulfillment. I wasn't happy with myself. I had somewhat of an identity crisis, I guess, because I was looking towards all these other bloggers to kind of lead the way. And, I looked up to them style-wise and all of these different things. So I was lost. The blog was lost. And so I sat down to really think about what I wanted my purpose to be, because if I was going to be working 16 plus hours a day with my company and then come home and blog at night, I really needed that strong purpose behind it. Otherwise, I knew I wasn't going to be motivated to do anything. So what had happened was I sat down and I started kind of going through, I really dug deep into myself. I started getting more into self-care. I started doing research and all of that. And I came out on the other end with Honestly Unfiltered. And now the blog focuses heavily on self-love, body positivity, that entrepreneurial kind of go-getter spirit. So it's all encompassing for both men and women. I mean, it has a heavier focus on women, obviously, but everything that I write about is, different pieces in life. So we've talked about dating. We've talked about commitment issues, whether it's, dating or friendships. We do dive into that self-love piece. And I've even gone in and talked about my personal journey and how I struggled with bullying back in high school. And I've also struggled with self-confidence issues and eating disorders and all of that. And it just really goes into how I overcame that and what I'm doing now to kind of sustain that. And that's where my self-love journey kind of came about, just in piece of that, sustaining, being true to myself.
Absolutely. I love it so much. And that was actually going to be my next question was there a certain thing or certain revelation or epiphany you came to when you were thinking about your blog going, it needs to be about self-love. Like, I need to go on this journey myself and I need to share it with everybody. Was there something that sort of brought that on?
I think it was a mixture of different things, to be honest, but I just noticed that, so I started my self-love journey after my dad passed away, because it kind of became evident to me that life is extremely short to try to be someone that you're not and try to impress people that at the end of the day don't really matter at all. And I just felt like after that revelation and I became 100% myself, I realized how free and how happy I felt. And I wanted to be able to give that to other people. And I wanted to help other people and teach them how to be happy with themselves, because I know that I'm lucky that I found it at my age. I was talking to my mom about it when I first started this whole thing, and she told me, she's like, you're lucky that you figured this out now, because I'm in my 50s and I just figured it out. So I really wanted to focus on people of all ages, really, but I did want to focus on the younger generation of men and women who could be struggling, so that they can get that out of the way and then live the rest of their lives completely and utterly happy.
Totally. And I find that a lot too with older generation women, or at least older than us, who have completely, they just don't even know who they are. They've gotten so lost in, being married and having kids and doing all this other stuff that they've completely neglected themselves. And it makes me wonder, when it comes to you, how much of all of this was a catalyst for you to kind of leave fashion? Because to me, and you can totally disagree with this because you have a totally different outlook on it than I do, but for me, when it comes to fashion, that's a very outward thing. Like, there's so many people who are so I just want to say rotten on the inside, that are in that kind of like celebrity and fashion and, you know, all that stuff. They're so outward. They're trying to impress. They're trying to look great. They're trying to be perfect. They're trying to take the best pictures and, you know, do all that stuff. So to me, celebrities and fashion and all of that is just a big show for someone who might not even be completely whole within themselves. So I'm wondering, you know, when it comes to a perspective of you leaving that sort of world to dive more into the self-love and the inward journey and all that, like, was that a thought that entered your mind, or was that feelings that kind of came up?
Absolutely. I think, you know, I still work with some select clients within the fashion industry, but the beauty of having my own company is I get to choose who I work with. So I only choose people who I vibe really well with, and I know that we're going to work well together, and they're positive and I'm positive, and I know it's going to be a healthy working relationship. Being in the fashion industry at such a young age really did kind of take its toll on me, because I had, like, I struggled with acne. I have never been a size 0, and I never will be, because that's not my body type. And I used to get ridiculed for that. And it was extremely difficult. And I remember it was very stressful, because you feel like you always have to keep up, and, you know, you do have to look a certain way. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, when it comes down to it, you start realizing, like, everyone in the fashion industry looks exactly the same. And that was also a huge problem. And that's where a lot of my identity crisis stemmed from, because I was essentially trying to look like someone else instead of just embracing, you know, my own features and my own body and all of that. But I do feel like now, especially, thankfully, that the fashion industry is trying to change that. And you have a lot of, you know, you look at the Dove beauty campaigns, and you look at, there's a lingerie brand now, and the name is escaping me, of course, but they work with women of all different ages and races, and they have handicapped women in their advertisements and all of this. So I think the fashion industry is really trying, but there is still that pretentious kind of, you know, way behind it. And that was something that, when I first decided to get out of the fashion industry, it was a moment, and I will never forget this. I was sitting at my desk, and I was on the phone with an editor from Vogue, and I was fighting with her over a belt. And I just remember sitting there and thinking, I am fighting and getting anxiety over this belt. Like, there has to be something else in life because this is not that serious. And that's when I kind of started re-looking at things as well. It was that exact moment, because I was like, a belt is nothing. What's going to happen if the belt didn't arrive on time, you know? So that was kind of the dawning moment. But I think just overall, the fashion industry, hopefully it'll continue to change. But yes, it is very difficult to kind of stay your own person within that industry.
Totally. And you know what? It's so funny, because I love hearing the stories from people where they have this, it's almost like a lightning bolt of awareness of just this one moment that totally makes them change directions completely. And it's just this lightning bolt of awareness, and everybody has it. It's always fun getting to hear that story from the different people. So when we're talking about your blog, and I know you have different topics, you know, I follow your blog. I love your blog. I love how raw and real you are, and how you drop F-bombs, and you're my people. I love you. So, so what inspires you to research different topics? Like, is it somebody that asks you a question, or is it just like a divine inspiration of creativity? What is it?
I wish I could say it was divine inspiration of creativity, but unfortunately I cannot take credit for what I write. What I write always comes in the most random ways. So I could be having a conversation with a friend, Or someone could send me an article and say, hey, I thought this was really interesting. Or, I mean, rarely is it ever something that I expect that I would be writing about. It just randomly comes up and I start getting all these thoughts in my head, and most of it looks like random. I always tell people it looks like random, like serial killer notes. Like it's so random all over the place. And then I go back in and like format it into a blog post.
That's awesome. Serial killer blog post. That's amazing. You can totally brand that. So thus far, has there been one particular thing that you have absolutely like has been your favorite thing to write about?
Ooh, I get asked a lot about dating. So I think because I have kind of an unfiltered view on things, people love to hear my thoughts on all of that. So I would say that that's the most fun to write about, because the whole dating sector of life right now is just a shit show, with all the apps, and people have such commitment issues and all of this. So I think that right now is my favorite thing to write about.
Cool. Well, and so, for someone who is just now like coming around to the idea that they might want to turn more inward and, cultivate more self-love, be a little bit more open to that, maybe feeling like they need to get in touch with their inner self-love and their self-worth, where would you tell them to start if they were brand spanking new to everything?
I think on the so the self-love journey is going to be different for everyone, because we all have a different outcome that we're looking to achieve. But the first thing that you have to do is realize that taking time for yourself and doing things that make you happy is not selfish. It's part of the journey, and we all as human beings need to do that. So if you need to say no to going to an event, or if you need to, similar to what I'm doing on my journey, is if you need to take a break from dating, do it. If you need to, draw yourself a bubble bath and do a face mask every night, do it. I think people, so I guess the, kind of the wording behind that is you need to get over the stigma that taking care of yourself is selfish.
I agree. I think that's the biggest thing, is because especially as women, we're always thinking about everybody else other than ourselves. It's just our conditioning and the way that a lot of us grew up because that's the way that we see our families doing things, other women. So to really see those role models who are really diving into their own self-love, really taking care of themselves, really being that example for other people, can be kind of rare unless you're actually looking for it. So that is, I love that. It's a really great starting place. And it's actually a lot easier than one might think. It's a great starting place to sort of start. It's almost like a trailhead, a good place to start. So talk to me about expectations, both in relationship with yourself and in relationship with another person. Like, what are your feelings about expectations? Because to me, they're what ruins relationships, even, especially with yourself or with someone else. But what are your thoughts on it?
I feel that people, as human beings, we all kind of have, we kind of have like a selfish kind of narcissistic side, which makes us, and we all have feelings. So feelings make people do stupid things. And I think that people go out there when they're looking to, we'll start with dating. So when you go out and you look for someone to date, you're looking for the perfect person. So people are always like, oh, I'm looking for Prince Charming and this is going to be great. But at the end of the day, and I've told multiple friends this, I said, why are you looking for the perfect man or woman when you're not even perfect? People have this expectation that they need this perfection in their life, when there's no way that one person can be perfect at everything and their life can be great and, everything like that. And so the fact that we almost expect that from someone else, and we expect them not to say rude things or mess up or, forget an anniversary or whatever, that is the leading cause of any type of fight or anything like that you get in a relationship. And as far as expectations for yourself, it's the same thing. People go in with this expectation that, all these big positive things are going to happen. So every time there's a minor setback, people get so discouraged. I think that it's so important to remember that everyone is perfectly imperfect. And that's something that people, once you embrace that and once you understand that, it translates not only into your own life, but also into your dating life. And it kind of gives you a broader, more, I guess less jaded opinion on other people when you do go on dates, or even when you're just, talking, maybe you're talking to your family about your self-love journey and trying to explain it to them. Like, once you have that down, the perfectly imperfect thing, you're golden.
Totally. Well, that kind of segues into my next question that I was going to ask you, which was awesome, by the way. So talk to me a little bit more about cultivating your own self-love and self-worth rather than looking for it in someone else. Like for someone else to give you the attention, that feeling of confidence, that feeling of love, that feeling of worth. We're constantly always looking for it on the outside. So talk to me about some really great ways to really cultivate that from within our own selves.
Yeah, so that is definitely, that's a personal struggle that I've had. And on some days, us as women, we all have those infamous fat days where literally nothing fits and we feel like we can't leave the house. And that's a normal thing. And I still struggle with that, even though I'm on a self-love journey. So I think the biggest things for me that have helped is just realizing that, we are our own person. And this is so cliche, but if you don't love yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. Like you can go out there and seek validation from everyone and everything that crosses your path. But if you don't start, with happiness in yourself, you're never going to find it anywhere else. You're always going to be searching for something more. And so I think a big part of that is, I've started doing the positive affirmations. So you need to wake up in the morning and you need to look yourself in the mirror. And it's one of those things where you need to say like, okay, maybe I woke up with a big zit on my face, but my eyebrows, let me tell you, my eyebrows are on point. They look awesome. We're about to go rock this. I'm going to put some makeup on. Or maybe you get an outfit on and you're like, you just have to admit to yourself, like, damn, okay, I look good. I'm about to go kill this work meeting. So it's all about just changing the way that you actually think about yourself. So anytime those little negative thoughts slip in, so like, oh, I need to lose 5 pounds, or I need to do this, or all of that, you need to immediately squash them down and say, sure, I can start working out. I can start being healthy, but you know what? I'm still beautiful. I'm still beautiful no matter what. And it's funny how once you start doing that and you start loving yourself, you almost like exude this confidence and you have this glow about you that attracts other positive energy to you. And it's kind of like a domino effect, and you start noticing it in your entire life, and it has really, really helped. So just, squashing those negative thoughts, I think, is really important.
I love that. And it's actually I know you and I have talked about this a little bit, but, it's one of those things that I've sort of come to recently too, in terms of working out and, how you look physically and different things. Like we all have problem areas. We all have areas we're kind of self-conscious about. And one of my biggest goals for this year was actually to wear shorts, because my legs have always been a problem area for me. Like my thighs have always been really large, and they seem to like not tone up in the ways that I really wanted them to, or in different areas than they should, or, whatever. And I decided this year, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to let go of how they actually look, and I'm going to work out because it makes me feel good. And I've actually worn shorts pretty much the entire summer. And that's a big thing for me. So I totally get like switching the mentality of, instead of doing something to attain a certain goal or to look a certain way, like doing it more for how it makes you feel and how it actually radiates from the inside, rather than trying to attain something from the outside and still having all this gunk, sort of festering on the inside. It's kind of a little ass backwards.
Exactly.
Totally. So, talk to me a little bit about people. We didn't really talk about this, but you live in the city. And one of the things that I always notice about people in the city is that they're just so off in their own little world. They're all very like clicked up. You live in downtown Chicago, but I'd have to assume that a lot of different cities around the country and maybe even around the world are like this. Or maybe not, because I don't, obviously I've never been to all cities in the entire US, though it is on my list. But so how does that compare with being in the city, trying to cultivate this self-love? How much harder do you feel like it is to do in a big city like Chicago versus somewhere else, or like out in the suburbs where you're actually seen? Like, because for me, when I go downtown and I go in the city, even though I love it, one thing that I notice is that it's like people don't even see you. It's like you're completely dehumanized. And when you actually try to engage or like talk to somebody, it's like you have 5 heads, especially if it's a stranger. So I wonder, when you're talking about self-love and different things, like how much different the mentalities are in a big city like Chicago versus anywhere else.
I think I have a little bit of a different view on that, just because I find the beauty of the city, exactly what you were saying, as like a negative. So I think it's great that people, don't interact, because it kind of gives you the sense of, you shouldn't really give a shit what anyone thinks of you. And I remember, because I'm originally from the suburbs, and I remember moving down to the city thinking that, oh great, like all these city people, they're going to be dressed up all the time, and I'm going to see people I know, and this is going to be awful. And you start to realize that because there's so many people, and because people are so busy and so kind of like in their own little world, that's kind of the beauty of it. Like I have never gave like less of a shit. Like I will walk out of my house in like sneakers and sweatpants with no makeup and a hat on, and I don't care who I see, because I know it's not a big, like no one's gonna care. I've almost experienced the opposite effect, because when you're in the suburbs, it's 2 totally different types of people, right? So in the suburbs, there's a different mentality, and I feel like people in the suburbs almost tend to care more. And I feel like they're the ones that tend to get dressed up and kind of look at people with a side eye and all of that. In the city, because there's so many different types of people, and there's so many, different neighborhoods, which changes styles and ethnicities and religions and all of this stuff, that people just are a little more accepting of things. And that to me has almost been more freeing than coming to the suburbs. Yeah, I don't know. So I guess it's kind of like a little bit backwards for me. Like I find it comforting in the city where people don't seem to see you, because at the end of the day, the whole point of the self-love is you shouldn't give a shit what they think anyway. So why does it matter if they see you or not?
Totally. I actually really love that perspective, because I've never lived in the city, even though I really do want to, at least for a little bit, just to experience it. So I wouldn't actually know, what it feels like to walk out dressed or, totally dressed down or whatever. So that's awesome. That's so awesome. So what are you hoping that your audience can learn from you and your journey and your blog? Like, what is the big dream, the big goal for that? Like, what would you love to see happen with that?
Yeah, so I'm actually working on creating a program that helps people kind of come into and helps them through their self-love journey. So that's been a really big focus for me, just to kind of, spread it, have a little bit of a wider wingspan on all of that. But my biggest point behind all of this is the whole reason that the blog is called Honestly Unfiltered is I've learned not to give a fuck what people think. And I've been able to tap into that and kind of say what everyone else is thinking. And I've been able to give a voice to the people that are too afraid to speak up. And I think that that's something that I obviously want to continue. So I want to tell people, I shared my story of growing up and all of my, we touched upon it a little bit earlier, but all my self-confidence issues, my eating disorders and all of that. I think because of the stigmas behind all of those things, like including like anxiety and depression and all of that as well, people are afraid to talk about it because they either one, don't want people in their personal business, or two, they're ashamed that they had gone through this. So I think the point for me of doing all of this is kind of giving a voice to those people who feel like they can't speak up. And it helps them understand that they're not the only ones going through it. And, if I can help one person kind of, throughout their self-love journey and help them understand that they are the most incredible thing ever, that's all that matters to me. I want to start showing people, because we live in this society of, these fake lives on Instagram, and people are getting plastic surgery and they want to look perfect and, look like the Kardashians or whatever. Like, I just want to teach people that it is okay and preferred to just be yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And you're the perfect person to deliver that message because you have such passion behind it. And you can just always tell from when you talk and how you feel and different things. It's just really awesome. And I'm excited for your program. That's going to be freaking amazing. I can't wait for you to roll that out. So kind of switching gears just a little bit. Tell me about a dream of yours.
Ooh, I'm one of those crazy overachievers. So I have so many dreams, but I think right now the biggest dream actually is to be able to teach people. I want to be on a TED Talk talking about self-confidence and self-love. I want to be speaking, on a panel at Forbes or have an article write up. I want a wider, broader range of, a platform so that I can speak on these issues, because while it is becoming more popular, I feel like it's almost one of those things that's like just trending. And I want to be able to keep up that momentum so that it becomes just a natural part of everyone's environment instead of just trending and then people are going to forget about it later or whatever. So I really want to reach a broader audience and keep on the path that I'm on, but just on a much larger scale.
Yay. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to watch you on a TED Talk. It's going to happen. It's going to be amazing. You're going to be so awesome.
One day.
It's going to be so amazing. So what brings you the most inner peace?
The most inner peace. I would have to say the thing that's a tough, I like that question. That is very tough. I would say the thing that brings me the most inner peace is the fact that I know that I'm enough. And that's something that has been such a struggle for me. But if I'm having like a bad day or beating myself up about something because I said something stupid or I messed up on a client presentation or what have you, that's something that I constantly repeat to myself is you are enough. And no matter what, I mean, we're all human, we all make mistakes, you know, and I think that that's something that people don't realize is that no matter what happens, you are enough. And as long as you do your best, then that's all that matters.
I love it. I love it. And it's actually probably going to segue really well into my next question because I kind of feel like I already know the answer that you're going to give, but we're going to ask it anyway. So if you could wave like, you know, a magic unicorn and you could have anything being taught in schools, what would it be?
Yes, I think the segues perfectly, but I do feel like the schools are missing a huge piece of that self-love kind of, you know, like just, I don't know, like the teaching, but I think it's not taught in school to value yourself and your own opinion and not care what people think. And that's why so many kids are being bullied for what they look like or, you know, where they come from or what have you. Kids aren't being taught to just be nice and accepting of everyone and everything. Because, I mean, let's be honest, I was even like this too in high school and middle school for a little bit. Even though I was being bullied, like I was still a little judgy asshole too. Like all kids just by nature are, you know, they're still trying to figure out what they have going on in their lives. You know, the hormones are raging, and their attitudes just naturally tend to like backlash or retaliate or whatever. And if they're growing up in households where the parents don't practice self-love, then that is like transferred onto them, and that's what they bring to school. Because that's what I remember from growing up. My mom, she's still one of my role models. She is just such a strong woman, and she always worked really hard. But that's something that I remember about her is she always had like this distorted body image. She could look so radiantly beautiful, and she could still stand in the mirror and say, you know, oh, I need to lose 10 pounds, or oh, I need to do this, or, you know, and growing up hearing that, I think that did resonate a lot more than I even realized. And, you know, that's what parents and stuff don't realize. So if they're teaching that in the schools, a little more about self-love and all of that, the kids are going to be able to resonate better with that. And there's not going to be as much bullying and all of that.
I agree. I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine, and we were kind of talking a little bit about the same thing. And I was sharing with her about, you know, the vision board workshops and things that I do, and, you know, really allowing women the space to be able to dive into themselves in a way that they might not have before or maybe never have. And it gives them a different way to walk through the world. And it teaches them to be a much different example to their kids. Because if, you know, like you said, if the parents aren't practicing self-love, if the parents are negative self-talkers or different things, your kids are watching that. So it goes so much further beyond things that parents even think about sometimes. And then the kids become, you know, they see this and they think that's normal. And then they go out into the world on their own. And lo and behold, they attract something that mirrors exactly what they grew up with, whether that's, you know, a dysfunctional relationship or, you know, negative self-love or negative confidence, whatever that is, it feels comfortable to them. They think that's normal. And so it's, yeah, I'm totally with you. It's totally so important. So as we kind of wrap things up, tell us what kind of services you offer, how to get in touch with you, you know, more about the blog and how to get access to that, just all the different things that you can offer to people, and how they can go about getting in touch with you.
Of course. So being in the social media field. You can basically find me anywhere. So my company, you can find us. We're kind of going through like a secret rebranding process. It's been going on for about 7 months now, and we're almost ready. So you can reach us at 8creative.com, and that's ATTE. It's actually the Norwegian spelling, which will all be explained on the website. And then also the company, still 8Creative on Instagram as well as Facebook. And then as far as the blog, that is honestlyunfiltered.com. And then we're on Instagram and Facebook as well. Both is Honestly Unfiltered. And all my contact information is on there. I have my email and my phone number and all of that. So I am very, very reachable if anyone needs anything.
And extremely responsive as well. She always is super, super punctual whenever I text her or whenever something happens. You know, when I was working with her, she was always super on it. She's very, very type A, take charge on her stuff. And I love that so much about you, and I appreciate that so much. And I appreciate you sharing all of this yumminess with everybody, kind of giving everybody a backlogged idea of why you're even in this sector, what kind of brought you here, what you're hoping to give, the things you're looking to help change in the world. I appreciate you so much for sharing everything. And I'm excited to share this all with everybody that's listening, but also to give them a really good idea of how to get in touch with you. So I'll put that all in the description of the podcast. So it's a super easy way to get in touch with Brittany. So with that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course. I wouldn't have it any other way. When I thought about self-love and I thought about all these different topics and things, you were a very clear beacon to go, hey, I know exactly who I'm going to have on the podcast when it comes to self-love. I'm going to have Brittany because that's exactly what she does. And who better to teach us about it than you? So I appreciate you taking time out of your evening, and hope everybody enjoyed hearing all the juiciness that Brittany had to offer. And I hope you guys all get to connect with her sometime soon. And with that, I hope you guys have a really amazing rest of your night. Thank you again, Brittany.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.